Alright everybody, 2 days ago Resident Evil released, or I should say Capcom, released two separate trailers for two Resident Evil games that are going to be coming out early 2015. One of which is a remake, or the re-release of the remake that was initially on the GameCube, just simply called Resident Evil. The other is a brand new game, and it's Resident Evil Revelations 2. Now, there's a lot of crappy comments. If you look at both trailers, there's going to be a lot of crappy comments on both games. The stuff for Revelations 2 I'll definitely get to, and it has a lot more merit to me than the stuff for the remake of the game. But the comments on the remake are like, it's like, why are they making this and stuff like that? First off, it's super easy for any company to just re-release a game download only. So it's basically, it's almost zero money compared to actually creating a brand new game, paying people to write a story, design, artists, all that stuff. It's a million times cheaper than just here's the game re-released. And I don't believe that it's even in HD, or like the HD version, which admittedly for the Resident Evil remake they kind of don't need to do. They sort of do, because otherwise it will be like in a box and it'll have like the black bars on the side, because it's not actually a 1080p game since it was initially released on the GameCube. But it is without a doubt the best looking game that was ever released on the GameCube. And even though it was re-released on the Wii, it's still one of the best looking games on there, outside of like Nintendo's main games, like the Super Mario Galaxy games, because they kind of make their games look perfect compared to the other games out there. But it's one of the best looking games that's honestly ever been made. It had to have been like the best game made during that generation as far as the GameCube, Xbox, and PS2 era. And it came out very close to the end, I believe. It was, or maybe not, it might have been towards the middle, really. And yet it still looked unbelievably amazing. And that was the last Resident Evil game that came out before Resident Evil 4 did, before things sort of changed up and stuff. But them re-releasing it is actually a really good idea, in my opinion. I know that a lot of people want them to be making other Resident Evil games, which apparently they are. They're doing Revelations 2, and they're possibly working on Resident Evil 7 at the same time as well, who knows. But them re-releasing the remake I think is a really good idea, because honestly they've only had it on two consoles, and that's the GameCube when it first came out, and then the Wii when they did Resident Evil Archives. And they did the same for Resident Evil 0, which is honestly why I'm really surprised that they haven't released a trailer for Resident Evil 0 being re-released as well, because Resident Evil 0 came out and then that's when they made the remake of the game. And it was really surprising that they wouldn't re-release Resident Evil 0 on on all the new consoles as well. But one of the big things is, how come Resident Evil the remake isn't on the Wii U when it's been on the Wii and on the GameCube, and it's also being re-released for every other console? It's PS3, PS4, 360, Xbox One, and it's even on PC if you want to buy it on Steam, which I think is a really great idea. That's going to be a great way for them to make money off of the game again. But I think the reason they didn't release it for the Wii U is because it's been on the past two generations. It's like people have had, I don't know how many years to get this game on either the GameCube or on the Wii. And don't get me wrong, I completely understand there are going to be a camp, and there is already a camp of people who may not have wanted a GameCube or may not have wanted a Wii, because the only games they saw on there were like, oh, it's Resident Evil 0 I really want to get because I love Resident Evil. Resident Evil the remake I really want to get because I love Resident Evil. And both those games had really great reviews when they came out. So he probably wanted to get those two games and like the Smash Brothers games, and that's about it on the Wii, maybe, or on the game, both the GameCube and on the Wii. And so you never bought either because you just didn't have enough money to just say, I want to get this console just for these couple of games. And so you got a Wii U because it's got the 1080p graphics. It's going to have a lot of cool, interesting games coming out, and they might have later versions of really big games, but it has those big games because they can do the 1080p now. So you got yourself a Wii U, and you're like, all right, this old Resident Evil game's coming out that I always really wanted, but I just never had the extra money to buy this console just because I just wanted to play this one game. So there are people in that camp that are unfortunately still kind of screwed over if they don't have a 360 or a PS3 as well, or of course a PS4 or Xbox One, and they don't use Steam, which everyone should use Steam because it's just a great way to get cheap games. But for people who don't, and you just have a Wii U, those people are still going to be screwed over because they just won't be able to experience the game. But I think in from Capcom's standpoint, it does kind of make sense because it's like they have this same game released on three actual generations in a row for Nintendo, and that's probably why they didn't do it, because they were thinking we would probably lose money if we put this for download only. And I don't know how much it costs. It's of course much cheaper to do download only, like I said, but I don't know the actual cost of putting a game out in download only. I don't know if there's one separate cost, like you just pay a fee and that's it, or if it's almost like a subscription thing where it's like, hey, it's almost like an ad when you put it on TV. You have to pay every single time it's there. So they're just paying repeatedly, maybe month by month or year by year or whatever, to Nintendo, just like Microsoft and Sony. But they feel like it wouldn't be worth doing that because so many people, if you have a Wii U, they probably assume you've been with Nintendo, you've had a Wii, or you at least had a GameCube if you skipped the Wii and you waited until the Wii U came out. And it's like, oh, 1080p, and it's up to par with other current gen games or current gen consoles. So they probably figured it would be a waste of money for them to put it at download only, even for the little camp of people who haven't been able to experience it. And that does still suck for those people, but from that standpoint, honestly, I do understand why they wouldn't do it, because it would almost be, I think, a dozen years or something crazy like that, where it's just like you could get this game on Nintendo just for a dozen years. Just pick a console and you got Resident Evil the remake. So I feel like that's why they really didn't do it, because it's been on Nintendo for so incredible, like such a long freaking time. They just feel like it would be pointless to put it on there once again. Like, if you have it, you've had one of these consoles within the last like 10, 12 years. So I feel like it makes sense that they wouldn't. It does, like I said, like there's just no way to get over the fact that it does suck for that small camp of people who did skip both the GameCube and the Wii, and yet they want to buy the new or buy the remake again because they never got to experience it in the first place. But unfortunately, I do kind of see where Capcom's coming from in that regard, because it just seems like it would waste money. Now, as far as Resident Evil Revelations 2, or just Revelations 2 since that's easier to say, I don't know why that's not on the Wii U. There's, honestly, I can't see any reason whatsoever why that wouldn't be on the Wii U. Some comments ask, why isn't it on the 3DS and on the Wii U? I understand why it's not on the 3DS. Like, the original one, and this is kind of why this has a lot of merit, like, Revelations 1 was initially on the 3DS exclusively, and then they released it to consoles so everyone could enjoy the game, because it got great reviews when it was on the 3DS. Not everyone was really buying the 3DS at the time, because there were really only a couple of games. It was like Resident Evil was the only one I wanted. It was like Resident Evil, the Kingdom Hearts game, the Kid Icarus game was very popular as well, and then the Super Mario game. And those were like really the top four games. I think Luigi's Mansion was out at that time as well. So they really only had like 5 huge games really on the 3DS, and that thing cost like $350 at that time. It was when before they even had like the 3DS XL, I believe. So it made perfect sense. It was like a lot of people didn't get to experience this game because it was only released on 3DS. Let's bring it to consoles, and that's how I got to play it. Fortunately, it was on PS3 because I bought it. And so Revelations 2 is like, let's avoid bothering with the handheld, because if they did it that way, they'd have to repeat the process, which I'm sure would just kind of be a waste of money for them when they know why put it on 3DS only for like a year or whatever when we're just going to release it on consoles later. So why not just boom, here's the console version for everybody. And then, you know, that makes perfect sense, except for the fact that it's on everything except for the Wii U. And there are no limitations at this point. It's not, you know, Nintendo isn't in that camp anymore. So I just don't understand why they can't do that. They have the 1080p graphics, like I said. They have all the specs. They have the multiplayer. Not that that really, it might matter to Revelations 2. I don't really know. It does have co-op or something like that in the original. But there are no real limitations as far as specs on the Wii U that could possibly stop Revelations 2 from working on it. So when people ask that question, there's really nothing I can see that's a reasonable answer. I don't know if it's anything to do with Nintendo. Nintendo's at the point where even though Nintendo is of course like the family friendly version that everyone knows, it's like the family friendly gaming company. Everyone knows if you play a ton of games, you know Nintendo has a lot of really violent games, some of which are actually exclusive to Nintendo consoles. Like initially, at least, No More Heroes was only on the GameCube. It was the first one, at least, was re-released for the PS3. The second one never was, and also it was re-released on the 360. I think that was only in Japan, which was a weird thing. I don't know. But they also had Mad World on the Wii, which is still exclusive to the Wii. They never re-released that game on PS3 or anything like that. So that's still specifically on the Wii. Bayonetta 2 coming out is only on the Wii U because Nintendo actually picked that game up so that it could continue its development with Platinum Games. And if you played the first one, or if you've even seen it, and even if you haven't, the game you play as a witch and you just kill demons. So like Devil May Cry with a woman, that's exactly what Bayonetta is. It's even made by the same people who did Devil May Cry. So there you go. It's Devil May Cry. It's a little bit lighter. Like there's not a ton of blood. Like the blood in the game isn't really blood. It's more like just the orange splatter type stuff. But it's like you're cutting up demons and stuff. There is blood in a lot of parts of Bayonetta when you do certain attacks because you're killing enemies like in torture devices. You chop their heads off. You crush them between stuff. It gets bloody in certain aspects of that game. And Nintendo picked up the second game exclusively because no one else wanted to, and they're the ones that are actually making that happen. So they have the violent video games. It's nothing with like blood and gore. And once again, Zero and the remake were exclusive to GameCube, as well as Resident Evil 4 when that initially came out. So I just don't understand why it's not going to be on the Wii U. There's just really no explanation for that I know of. Once again, I don't know the inner workings of the gaming industry. I don't know what the deal is between Capcom and Nintendo. I don't know if there's something that happened where they feel like Nintendo didn't offer enough money or something, which at this point I'm pretty sure Capcom is still not exactly doing amazing right now. They've had a couple of great games or good games come out as far as sales wise, but I don't think they're just doing unbelievably amazing where it's like, oh, Nintendo, you guys didn't offer us enough money, we're not going to put it on the Wii U. They're just flat out losing money. It's not at all like with the remake where people have had the chance to get it on the GameCube or the Wii, so they feel like, we could put it out for maybe a year at most, and that would be all the sales they get for the remake. Like, everyone who wasn't able to experience would be like, boom, I got the download. And then that's it. After that year, they probably have like 0 sales on the download version of the remake on the Wii U. So that at that point, yeah, they might lose money. But as far as Revelations 2, it's a brand new game no one's ever been able to play. We haven't even seen any actual content from it. There's a concept trailer that shows no real visuals in it too much except for the logo, honestly. But they aren't putting it on the Wii U, which just doesn't make sense. You're just flat out losing money in general in that, so I don't understand why it's not on the Wii U. I am, however, excited for the game. Once again, it's on everything except the Wii U, so it's on Steam and stuff if you prefer to buy your games on Steam. But the trailer itself, it is an interesting trailer. I'm going to put the links below for both, although with the remake trailer, you won't really see anything too amazing. It's an interesting trailer. It's black and white. It's just this little girl running, and everyone has like these green bracelets on, and it's like that means you're healthy and stuff. And it was weird, but if you saw the E3 Xbox conference, that's what it made me think of, because everyone in that had like these little bracelets on, and they all glowed and stuff during certain videos and things like that. So it made me think of that when I first saw the video. Like, everyone has these green bracelets on. It's like, oh, I just instantly thought Xbox. But she's running through, and then eventually it goes from this nice setting with people to this crazy city setting where zombies are all over the place, and zombies have red bracelets, and there's a woman in there about to be attacked, and hers is like green on the outside, but it has like red in the middle because she's like freaking out, I guess. And then the girl kind of just stops and she points, and then all these zombies are sort of slowly walking into her. It's a creepy trailer because it's like just this little girl running, and like it's almost like no one sees her until the zombies see her. So it's sort of a weird creepy trailer, like a creepy movie type of thing with just a kid running and she's almost like a ghost. But it's an interesting concept trailer. It doesn't really say much about the game. The description for the game is that The story is kind of like for people who are smart enough to see behind the facade. You can scope out what's really going on in the world and things like that if you have the wit to detect who's lying and who's really telling the truth. So it has an interesting plot to it, at least from that small little concept that they put in the description. So I'm curious about what the story's really going to be, and I'm excited to see who we get to play as, because I think the two people everyone really wants are the same, and that's Claire Redfield and Rebecca Chambers. And especially for Rebecca Chambers, who really hasn't been in anything for a very long time. She's in one of the more recent games when you think about it, because she's in Resident Evil Zero, which was before the remake came out, and that was just before Resident Evil 4. But chronologically speaking, and since the timeline of the Resident Evil games does coincide with real life, the Revelations 2, it'll either be 2013 or 2014. I don't know if they're going to really keep in line with Revelations. And I know, of course, it's all the same universe, so Revelations and then the numbered games, but I don't know if they're going to do like Revelations 2 is 2014, and then when they do, or I guess 2014 or 2015, depending on how they decide to do it. And then whenever Resident Evil 7 comes out, it'll be like, after Revelations 2, because I believe Revelations came out around the same time as 6, and it takes place before 6, so they'll probably do it that way. Sorry about that. But they'll probably do it that way, where it comes out and then the next numbered game comes out and it'll be after Revelations. But I'm excited for the game because Resident Evil is a great franchise. It's my favorite franchise, honestly. Revelations, despite the fact that the numbered games have kind of gone off the path, Revelations does sort of harken back to the more original style. It uses the old aspects of the game, of the original games as far as horror, but it uses the new game mechanics as far as the running and the camera angles and weapons and things like that. So I'm really excited for it. Of course, comment below. Let me know what you guys think about it. What characters do you want to see? What story do you want to see? What do you guys think about it not being on the Wii U? What do you guys think about the remake being re-released for a third time, even though it's not going to be on the Wii U? Of course, comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.